Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. And we've got Hybrid Snipers back. Hybrid Sniper and his Cromwell B. Got a pretty good setup here. Two-tier battle on Ghost Town. He's working the edge of the map, which at first I saw him headed this way, and I said, all right, good. We're gonna get out there and look for some damage, and we're gonna go to a bush and we're gonna hang out. Now, I don't like, this is the standard version of this. I do not like going over to the east side because it's very difficult to push across all this flat land. But he's got this T50-2 in front, so it looks like he's going to follow up a little bit here. So he's got a bit of a medium push going on with a light tank scouting. And we're going to stop and we're going to click on something. You really should be able to move and click. If you hit control, just hold W down, hit control, move your mouse around where you need to put it. I see a lot of people do that. If you can click or type and do the things you need to do while moving, that's probably better. Not a big thing, but just a little thing to think about. 3045 pushes in, and we got the T50-2, and we're all right. So we've moved forward, grabbed some map control. That's fine. This replay was interesting to me. It ends up being an ace tanker. I'm going to talk about that as we get there later on in the match. But initially, it looks like all right. So we've come forward and we're looking for some shots. We are kind of hanging out in the back. Now we got a team killer going on, so that's awesome. Looks like the AMX has given himself a vacation for a few days or a day. Not moving anymore, blue. Somebody actually takes the time, wastes the time to shoot him. There we go. And down he goes. So 3485 bothered to go around. Now we're typing, and now Hybrid has left. So we had a push going. There's a guy in a bush. We're not going to push the guy in the bush anymore. We're going to take off. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're going to play a very passive, kind of hiding style of gameplay. Ends up with really good results. The other reason this is important, because the question he has is, hey, I had an ace tanker in this game. Could I have done better? What could I have done better? Well, the assumption is done better as in win. Now we're going to shoot behind. We really need a lot more lead on this guy. Fairly slow shell velocity. If you wait till the Pipper is right on the enemy tank and you have any kind of line of sight from right to left or left to right at that range with a relatively low shell velocity, you're going to miss pretty much every time. So you needed more lead fire on that. So we're going to come back here. We got an MT-25 behind us. We're going to go mess around with him. But because we're sitting back sniping so much and we don't close the gap, he tears up several tanks. They get spotted and dead. Now he's dueling this 12T, and we're just sort of sitting back here. I'd have just driven right in there, got close to my work. The Cromwell really wants you to be close to its work if it can. Not as in, let's go brawl with the heavies, but if we are going to get into some kind of moving battle, artillery hits him right there, we want to get close. So we finally get close where we can get more effective gun, and then we stop. This was an opportunity to auto-aim this dude and drive around him, because that's the strength of the Cromwell. At least put a little movement on your tank and make it somewhat hard for this guy to hit. Let's take a look, because this is going to be a factor. You're actually carrying 10 HE shells. I would drop all of them. If you just must have an HE shell, only 2 or 3 is really all you need. And then we have some heavies pushing through. Hadn't mentioned it yet, but obviously the middle was completely uncovered. This is a team full of snipers. Now you do have to react to that. I'm not saying you wanted to go into the town and start brawling with the heavies, but you abandoned the push, then you fell back, you kind of sat there and sniped, and now it is minute 10:37, 4.5 minutes, and we are going to sit on this hill for the entirety of the rest of the game without a thought of going anywhere else. There's an argument to be made right now at 2 to 8 that it's probably dangerous to start moving around, and that's probably true right at the moment. So we're going to work these bushes right here, and one of the tonics for hanging out and camping in a bush and letting the rest of the game kind of go on around you is a compliant enemy that is going to let you shoot at them. One thing I'm noticing that you do here, and it costs you a lot of accuracy, is every time you fire, you scoot a little bit around. And in this tank, because it takes so long to aim, see that little movement where you shifted back and your dispersion got bigger? This happens a lot, and you miss a couple shots because of it. This tank really needs to zoom in. Now, there's the, hey, I don't want to sit there in case I'm seen, and if I move a little bit and my sixth sense goes off, then that's a good thing. But in a case like this where these guys are clearly not going to see you, just stay aimed in on them. Stop the automatic forward or back move when you shoot, which everyone kind of has, and just let it aim in. So we're going to take a look at this guy. And the reason I mentioned the HE is you're starting to see, holy cow, we are burning through shells. And a tank that fires this fast, who's attempting to snipe, that's as inaccurate as this tank, is going to have ammo problems if you sit on bushes sniping at long range and fire, especially at tanks like that you don't have a really good shot at. So it's just something you got to think about. He is running food, so that is helping. And we are pretty quickly down to our gold. And the game has evened up a little bit. It's 7 to 8. It was looking really like a face roll. This guy knows there's someone in that bush. Obviously, he's been hit by him, so goodness. The good thing is that he missed you. But the enemy tanks are just going to keep on showing up in this big open area right here. And while this ends up being a great result for you, you've already got 2,200. To a large extent, it was because they created the shots for you as opposed to you creating the shots for you. You can see that your Panther and some other guys are actually working over and trying to work on the artillery. With the mobility of this tank, you could have easily flexed all around the outside edges of this map and helped your guys. We're just going to kind of hang out in this bush the whole time. And like I said, the results are pretty good. You're getting a lot of shots, but the enemy is simply just letting you have everything here. And this guy, he tries to make a runner. There's that little scoot again. Just sit there. You're all good. Okay, that was actually a zoom out, not a movement. Then the T-20 shows back up. He wants to die. I mean, it's unbelievable. 2,700. You get spotted. They clearly know you're up there. This was a good move. Get out of the artillery. But we're down to 14 APCR shells. And we've got those 10 HE in that tiny little gun. That tiny little gun is going to really struggle to do anything with HE. KV-2 is in town. What push you had around the edges got massacred. One of the big reasons, though, to be quite honest, is the DPM and the rate of fire of your tank was not there. So you get waxed, and now we're just in a pure... we kind of were defensive to begin with, and now we're just in a pure defensive mode. And this strength of this tank is its mobility. But once again, I mean, what do you say? Another enemy tank has showed up and asked to be farmed, and we just are popping through. Better job with the accuracy right there. I don't know if maybe you said, all right, I need to stand in and just make these count, as I'm getting low on my shell count. And I've got a full hit point AMX M445. Now this right here, I wanted to get to this part because really at this point, you guys are in big trouble. And you really need to get into pushing out of here and helping your team win. Use the mobility. They know you're up here. Go somewhere else, right? Being predictable is one of the worst things you can do in this game. Being predictable gets you shot when you pop out for shots. Being predictable means you stay in the place you were last and they find you exactly where they think you are. Being predictable does not allow you to get crossfires. Being predictable does not allow you to support tanks that are alone and unafraid like your KV-2 down there. Those are two big heavy hitters. Plus you've got the E2 wandering around somewhere, so those are definitely problems. But you've got pretty good view range, pretty good crew, it would appear, and a KV-2 that needs a little help. And we're just basically going to hang out up here on this hill. So really the answer, the overall answer to your, hey, how could I have done this better? And you know, it's an interesting question because when you roll up with an ace tanker and you send that replay in, I get this quite a bit. And somebody asked me how they can do better. A lot of times I look at, well, hell, it's an ace tanker. I mean, there's probably not too much. But this was an interesting one for me because it ends up being a big farming exercise. And it's hard to argue with the amount of damage you did. But really, you weren't putting your team in a position to win. The enemy team kept putting themselves in a position to lose. And there's a big difference right there. Down goes that guy. Now, you're actually in pretty good shape right there, right? The KV-2 just opened it up a little bit and gave you a chance. A tank you hadn't seen that you were probably worried about is gone. The other two are relatively slow, bad view range, and you know where the AMX M445 is. Just bail off this hill in one direction. I'd probably go off this way. I don't think you can go that way because you'd be spotted by him immediately. Bail off this hill and go find somewhere else to be. You can still take sniping shots on him. It's a minute 20 before he ever caps. Really what you and the KV-2 want to do is find that M40 or that 40 TP and get rid of him. Then you can tag team the M445. So if you come off the hill, head off this way, use this cover, maybe even go up this hill potentially. Going to be a bit tricky. If he sees you, you're going to have to bail out of that. But there are some swells and bumps right here that you could probably move through. Link up with your KV-2, find that dude, and then work this guy. All right. But what you're going to actually do is hang out here. The Artie is all over you. He knows exactly where you are. This guy knows where you are. Also, one thing to think about is when the M4 isn't looking at you, and you did this earlier, you take that shot, this thing reloads so fast, you can probably get 2 shots in before he can even swing his turret to you. We're going to actually see that happen here in just a minute. Right here. Shoot. He's not going to get to you. Shoot again. Don't back out. Stay in there. And as long as he's staring at the KV-2, which he just killed, you have shots into him. But your crossfire opportunity is now gone, right? The KV-2 had to push in. Probably felt like he had to because you have been up on this hill the entire time, and he more than likely feels like there's no way this guy's moving up the hill, so this is all I have. So he's not looking at you shoot. You may have even been able to get one more shot in there. That would have been a little more dangerous because his gun was more or less online. He could have swung it and just snapped it off. The 40 TP was just spotted, and there's the artillery. So again, another problem of just sitting in the same spot here is that Artie is just sitting there reloading, waiting for you to take a shot and get spotted. It's unfortunate that the Hummel is sitting right there because he's stopping you from doing the bush trick. That guy missed. Unbelievable that he missed right there. I would have just stood in, right? And you missed because of it. You backed up, came forward, were messing around with your aim. He'd fired. You had 3 shots before he even got reloaded. Could have put them all right into him. And unfortunately, he misses again. Incredible. And now we're down to the HE. And the HE from the face just isn't going to work. Now, the other thing to think about here is he's off the cap, so he's not a problem anymore. Yeah, you've only got 10 shells, but why sit there and shoot him in the face? My assumption here is that you're just in, I'm just going to farm whatever I can mode. It's a loss, and I'm going to give up. But what about bailing off this hill and coming off the back again at this point and looking for the 40 TP? Or, another thing I might have thought about, as soon as he fired that one shot, I might have just blazed down the hill. Do a couple zigzags. Maybe I get in on him. Maybe I don't. I only have 200 hit points. He missed that earlier shot. Maybe he's just not that good at the game. Get around behind him, start pumping some shells into him from the side, because then my HE will be more effective. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I take this guy down. He misses again. And we're just going to... If you're going to shoot HE at this guy, shoot it at his side. That's another thing. Aim over here instead of at his front. Look at that shell going in. Duke. Do hole 54, and down you go. Down you go from the artillery. Like I said, my assumption is at this point you were just in farming mode. I mean, the result is 3,980 damage, 431 assist, 2 kills. On the face of it, looks really good. But I'm going to be completely honest with you here. You never really put yourself in a position to help your team win. You reacted, and then you put yourself in a position to farm a bad enemy team who kept giving you shots. And you used your team as the spotters and the meat shields to get there, right? Some people do really well with that game style, but I think yours was a couple steps backwards on your back foot from where you really needed to be on this, and you didn't really leverage, in my opinion, didn't really leverage the capabilities of the Crumblebee, especially late game when there's a lot less tanks and a lot more maneuverability around the map, where you could have used that maneuverability to get around and surprise people. Now, that just may not be your play style. Some people aren't into that, the mobility thing as far as doing a lot of movement, and I get that. But really, end game there, I think you had a couple opportunities to open this thing up for your team. All right, man. Thanks for sending it in. I do appreciate it. For everybody else, hope you learned a little something here. And if you did, subscribe, and we will see you.